welcome to season 4 of Rising Stories podcast. I'm Corine, Sandifer, your host. And before we begin, I want to share that today's sponsor is Rakuten. Rakuten is your go-to shopping destination to earn cash back from over 2,500 stores like Macy's, Amazon, Sephora, Walmart, and much more. All you have to do is shop online. You can shop online as normal as like you normally do until you see the pop-up and asking you if you would like to connect to Rakuten. It's that easy. So join Rakuten today for free, and with the link provided in the show notes today, and Rising Stories podcast will give you a cash bonus to get you started. So every 3 months after that, as you're shopping again, you will get a big fat check in the mail or a PayPal payment just for shopping online. So check that out with the links provided. As some of you know, I am the regional leader for Lean In Tennessee, and is part of the Sheryl Sandberg, Dave Goldberg Family Foundation, including Lean In and Option B. In my journey of being a Lean In Circle leader and regional leader, I have met countless women and men who are changing the world by empowering women to break that glass ceiling, also to take on those new challenges and move the needle towards gender equality in the workplace. So for season 4, I am bringing you interviews with some of the most powerful women running these Lean In circles across the globe. So today we are talking with Shreni Zinzuwadia. I'm sorry if I batched that up. She is an emergency medicine trained and board certified emergency medicine physician and has been in practice now for 14 years. Shreni has worked in inner cities, suburban, and rural emergency departments. She is currently practicing in northern New Jersey. Thanks so much for joining us, Shreni.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, Corine. Thank you for having me. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I know this is because we are in the middle of a pandemic, and you are in New Jersey, which is kind of the epicenter, isn't it? Sort of near the epicenter of the breakout of this pandemic in the United States.
Excuse me. Yes, I have allergies today. We're second to New York. I'm 20 minutes outside of New York City. Northern New Jersey is second to New York with the highest number of cases in the United States. So I would say yes. I mean, I guess New York City's the epicenter. We're in the outer circle of the epicenter, so we're right there.
And are you seeing cases? So during this time, I know that it's now May, but I guess the heightened part of it, do you still feel like you're in that heightened time of the pandemic, or has it slowed down a bit?
Yeah, I think the height was in April, mid-April, I would say was the height. It ramped up in March, and then I think it hit its peak in April, and now we're on the decline. So yeah, I think it is slowing down. I'm still seeing people with positive cases, but the number of positive cases is much slower. Mm-hmm. And I'm not seeing as many very sick people who are positive. I'm seeing less severe cases of it, much less severe cases. People are, testing positive and able to go home and manage themselves at home, or, not needing ventilators right now. So yes, we're on the decline, and people are starting to come back to the ERs. We were telling people to stay home unless it was an absolute emergency, and then nobody was coming in for anything. And then now we're starting to worry that all the strokes and the heart attacks and all the stuff we usually see, people are just getting sicker and sicker at home. So now across the country, we're encouraging people to please come back to the emergency department. Everybody has a mask on, and to get evaluated if they feel ill. So.
Wow, I wasn't even thinking about that during this time. Now, I know that I myself, on March 9th, I got a terrible infection in my arm. Well, over the weekend before that. And we had one case at that time here in Tennessee. And my doctor admitted me to get IV antibiotics. And that is when all hell broke loose, and people were starting to, it was slow for Tennessee, but people were starting to get COVID or be tested. And so I just wanted to get out of there. And I was like, I'm not going back unless my arm is falling off, which is what everybody thinks, So I didn't even think about people who have heart attack symptoms and who have stroke, signs of stroke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, they're scared to death of coming
Yeah.
in. So I'm glad that we're getting the word out that it's
Yeah.
safe. Go ahead and go in. Yeah.
I've had a couple of appendicitises that needed emergency surgery. I've had a woman with a ruptured ectopic pregnancy that needed emergency surgery. So, if they didn't come in, they would have been in big trouble. So I'm very glad they came in. And what we're doing is the people who have to have these procedures done, they're getting rapid testing. So the turnaround is 2 hours, so we can cohort them, appropriately in which part of the hospital if they're positive, they would be in a part of the hospital or floor where other people are positive. If they're negative, they go into an area where people are negative, and the test has to come back before we admit them. So we're doing it in the emergency department, the rapid testing for the people that are sick and coming in for other stuff that need to be taken care of.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how are you keeping your sanity through all this?
I mean, for me, you know, we're always so busy. We're all running around. So when the pandemic hit and all the mandatory meetings and the millions of projects and this and that were put on hold, it was almost like some of us could breathe again and life slowed down, and we appreciated it, for a while, where you get to be with your family and you get to, remember what's important, and, the love and the real relationships, and slowing down and just centering yourself. So that's something we should all be grateful for, right? That opportunity to not be busy, 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 and then just running around and doing our busy work, and actually taking time to remember what life's really about. But for me as an emergency physician, I had, my life didn't really change. I had to work. There were a couple of weeks where people were sick. I had to work extra shifts. It was very busy. I was constantly keeping up with all the changing information around COVID, the changing treatments, the rises, the governor's updates in New York and New Jersey daily. That's been my life for like 8 weeks now. And all emergency physicians, it's been our life. So we've been very busy. So our lives haven't changed that much, except now the kids are home and people are getting homeschooled. And I have a senior in high school whose graduation I'm extremely upset about.
Ah,
Having
yes.
everything was canceled. Now they're going to put it back on the calendar for the summer. But
Oh, good.
that was a little, yeah, that was hard. And then picking colleges, and not we weren't able to do the college visits, and him making a decision without the visits. That's all been a struggle. But I planted a lot of flowers. I gardened a lot. We cleaned up the house a lot. We divided chores, and that's kept us sane. And luckily we got a Peloton before the pandemic broke out, so we had a little.
Thank God. Yes. Oh, I
Yeah,
so wish I had gotten one, right? Just because
oh,
it's like, I mean,
lifesaver.
luckily we've had some great days here in Tennessee and Nashville, but there were days where I was like, I wish even the malls were open with not the stores, but where I could just walk indoors. I
Yeah.
can't, it's raining. I mean, I'm not, some people, my son's a runner and he runs in any weather, but I'm not. I'm a wimp. So I wish
Yeah.
I had something. But yeah, wow, it sounds like you're doing great as far as like, yeah, I agree. Like being home, and I guess the nice thing that have changed for you is that you're working, but at the same time, when you come home, everyone's there, right?
Yeah.
There's
Everyone's there.
so you're having good quality family time,
Yeah.
and
Which is something to cherish. So it's nice, right?
yeah,
And I'm fortunate. Like, I'm one of the people who's an essential worker. My husband still has his job. I have my job. So economically, we're fortunate in that we weren't furloughed and we weren't closed down. And it's hard on people. It's a really hard time if you can't generate revenue, if you can't generate income. I feel really concerned for everyone in that position. Really.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and even just Nashville is a big tourist town. And so is New York. I mean, just the restaurants alone, I can't imagine how much uh, people are
Yeah.
missing out on everything.
And the Broadway plays, I have a friend who works in the theater in New York City, and Frozen's closed permanently. The show is shut down. that
Oh man.
and the theaters have no idea how they're going to come back. They
Wow.
don't, how are people going to sit next to each other again? And then if they don't
Yeah.
have people sit next to each other, let's say they do every third seat, that's like 25% capacity. How are they supposed to survive
Yeah.
on that? Same with restaurants.
Wow.
It's pretty devastating.
Yeah. And what are your colleagues saying that, I mean, do we feel like there's going to be a vaccine, or do you think that it would, I'm imagining that, or what I feel like I've seen is COVID is kind of, some people it gets like really hits really hard, and then others it's very mild.
Yeah.
So you just never know. I guess you never know which case you're going to be, or is
Well,
it
I'll tell you
depend
what
on
I
your?
do. I mean, there's exceptions to all these patterns, but the pattern generally is if there's comorbid conditions, right? If if they have other medical issues, or if they're cardiometabolically not fit, whatever that might mean, in terms of, their immune health is weak, they're not, they're 30 plus pounds overweight, they're not in a position to generate a strong immune response to a virus. So they're the ones that are, generally speaking, the people that are, and the elderly, because the elderly, because they have comorbid conditions, there are elderly that have got this and beat it and have done well with it. But the people that are sick with other medical issues are going to be, or have been hit very hard. I'll give you an example. I had two different cases. My friend who's 54 years old, who has, hypertension, high cholesterol, and she's a pre-diabetic, but she eats incredibly well, and her husband walk all the time. She just tested positive. She was exposed. She knows she was exposed at least, April 28th, and then she started feeling sick. She just got tested on the 13th, and it came back positive. So that's 15 days maybe that she's had the infection, or that's the incubation period. And she's home. She's not short of breath. She has headaches, body aches, and low-grade fevers. Her fevers are not high. They're not 103.0. They're like 100.7, and she's beating it. So how is she beating it? Her immune system is very strong. She eats very healthy. She does her best to keep herself
Fit.
Yeah. Now I have another woman who's 61 years old who came in as a patient who was hypertensive and, maybe 30, 40 pounds overweight. And she came in very, very sick. She needed lots of oxygen, and she was definitely being admitted to the hospital. So it's hard, it's hard to say who's going to get ill. But generally speaking, it's the people who are already vulnerable with bad comorbid, diseases that are getting hit the hardest. So my recommendation to everybody is start focusing on getting healthy. If you're not already healthy, it's time to take it seriously. We've been giving lip service to controlling stress and sleeping well and exercising daily and eating lots of colored vegetables and greens. It's time to really do that. It's time to really get control of that, because all of that impacts your immune system and your ability to fight any infection that comes along. So it's time, I think, for all of us to start focusing on getting our health better and controlling our stress and our response to stress, getting good sleep, and eating incredibly well, and really doing something physical every day. I think that's the best approach.
That is really good advice. Yeah, I feel strongly about that as well. Just kind of staying healthy, and I feel for those people that are more vulnerable to or susceptible because of their compromised immune systems, or the elderly that aren't as fit and active. But yeah, oh wow.
Yeah, so I think that's what we have to do. I've had a few physician friends who have gotten it, and most of them have done pretty well with it. It was like a bad flu for most of them, where they had body aches, fevers, and just generalized malaise, but they did not need oxygen, and they didn't need to be admitted to the hospital. And it took 14 days for them to really get better. And they're all back to work.
Yeah.
They look good. So that's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how are people still getting infected? Because I'm thinking, we're all in quarantine. We're all like being really careful and wearing masks. Of course, I'm the worst about touching my face. I wear contacts. I'm constantly touching my eyes.
That's a great question too. Maybe it's going to the grocery store. Like I don't want to say that, because I feel like now people are going to be paranoid to go to the grocery store. They'd be paranoid if they're in line with somebody who's not wearing a mask. And, there is a lot of policing that people like to do. They like to police each other and criticize and judge other people who they don't think are taking appropriate measures. And I think that's also dangerous. I think you just have to worry about yourself. If you feel like you're going to be vulnerable, then you wear a mask and you wear your gloves and Lysol everything. But I don't think we should, as a society, be constantly preaching and judging each other and assessing what appropriate precautions our neighbors are taking. That's tricky, but I think I don't know how people are getting it. I mean, it's hard to speak to that, right? If you're in quarantine, you're going out for gas, you're going out for groceries, where else are you going?
Yeah. And I mean, you just never know what people are bringing into your home as well. Like, your own family, like just things that you're touching and maybe grocery stores or gas or whatever. But I guess, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I always just say, wash your hands and, wear the mask and, wear the gloves if you need to, or whatever. If you really, just kind of, everyone should just be responsible for themselves to, if you did, like, walk around as if you did have it and are a carrier or whatever, and just be I mean, you're not going to, before all this, we weren't sneezing on people. We weren't, coughing. If we, we'd kind of do the hand like, oh, I'm sick, I'm not going to shake your hand today. We just need to kind of heighten that up a little bit for this more extreme case.
Right. We do want to, it's called social distancing, but it shouldn't really be called that. It should be called maybe some physical distance, but we need our relationships. We need our social networks. I did get to spend some time with some friends. We went into our backyard. We all had our lawn chairs and they were about 7 or 8 feet apart in a big circle. We all brought our own food and beverages and didn't go inside. And it was nice to see people again. You really have to maintain relationships, right? But you have to be careful at the same time.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that it will slowly, I feel like if people are careful and are taking care of each other, then we can open up the, theaters and more restaurants. If we can just be mindful, like, hey, if you're sick, stay home. If you don't feel well, stay home. So.
Oh, it reminded me. I was going to say something there. I forgot what it was. Because at some point, what are we waiting for? Like, we do have to get some sense of normal life back, because life's worth living if you can live it. You don't want to be, to be in this situation forever would be wrong.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out the proper way to get out and get things open again.
Yeah. I hope the sports comes back for the kids. I know that I mean, we, adults have sort of their routine of, working out, but kids are more like, they're more active just with being with other people and doing, kind of soccer and basketball and things like that. So I feel like
kids are doing well with this. There are going to be exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I've seen no sick kids.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I tested a 22-month-old who was positive. That was in April, and she was, like any other virus, because children are exposed to coronaviruses every year. There's in our ER, before COVID-19, there are 15 respiratory viruses that we can test people for. It's 2 different classes of coronavirus: metapneumovirus, influenza A and B, rotavirus, enterovirus. It's our respiratory panel, 15 viruses that we can test for. And people, adults and children have come back positive for these all the time. Adults usually get hit harder when they have asthma and other comorbid conditions, and most of the kids, unless it's bronchiolitis from RSV, typically in the past have done really well with this stuff. And I had a 14-month-old 2 nights ago that I just tested, who had fever and nothing else indicating that it could be COVID. She didn't have a rash. She wasn't short of breath, but I did test her for it, and her respiratory panel came back negative. So the final test I'm waiting for is the COVID test to come back. But I sent her home, and she was doing well. So kids in general are doing fairly well with this disease, even though, New York City came out with that article about the atypical Kawasaki's, which they gave a new name for, that it may or may not be related to a COVID infection. It's unknown. And we don't know if those kids, those children had other underlying diseases or medical conditions making them vulnerable. But for
Yeah.
the most part, kids and teenagers have done very well.
And I suppose that there's going to be a increase in numbers as people are now getting, I mean, I heard this morning that now doctors across the country are now getting like that checklist of this is what you look for in the infants. And so it might increase, but like, yeah, you said, you don't know what is, if they have any underlying problems. But yeah, all very scary, but I feel like if we can just be, like I said, careful and just be mindful of everyone else and not sneezing or talking in that direction.
Right. Like now I have allergies, and I have to be very careful because my son and I both have allergies. We're sneezing and coughing, and like, the pollen counts up, so people are going to be coming in sneezing and having symptoms they need controlled, and it might make other people paranoid about, is that COVID? COVID, you don't really have that sneezing thing. It's really like body aches, fever, malaise, but you're not like full of mucus. That's something.
That's something else.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I would like to hear, and I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for doing what you're doing out there in the world and helping these people. Cause I can't even imagine, cause you've got kids at home, you've got a husband, and I know that it's a scary thing to be out there on the front lines and being exposed every single day, not knowing, who has it, who doesn't. And so thanks for just doing what you've been trained to do, but also going above and beyond. Because some people I know can't, don't want to do it. I mean, I'm sure there are doctors that are like, I'm not doing this,
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the doctors that got sick early on, the doctors that initially got exposed, there were a couple of situations early on where the ERs were very crowded and people were in the hallways, and before you really knew what was going on, maybe the patients didn't have a mask on, or maybe the physician didn't have a mask on, and there was this worry that hospitals were going to run out of PPE, so they were being a little bit
conservative on the supplies.
On supplies. So I think that led to some exposures of physicians. But I was lucky, like wherever I worked, it was, we had enough PPE, and most of us who were vigilant about, wearing it didn't get sick. But a couple, I work in a teaching hospital, and one of my residents did get it, and one of the attendings did get it. I think maybe, there was some laxity there with their PPE wearing it. And I know an infectious disease doctor who was exposed, who was, in her mid 60s, no medical problems, but not particularly fit. And she beat it. She didn't have to go to the hospital. She beat it at home. She started hydroxychloroquine very early. And she's, an East Indian American physician. She did a lot of home remedies that were boosting her immune system, and she did very well with the infection. But yeah, so most of us were protected, and, that helped us a lot.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So tell me, we're going to kind of pivot a little bit. Tell me about how you got into Lean In, because you are part of the Lean In. Is it Lean In New Jersey?
Well, it's actually
Lean In Latinas.
Yes, it was Lean In Latina Surge that got me in, and a mom, my son's high school, one of his classmates' mothers. It's her organization. Her Elisa Charters, and yes. I came into Latina Surge with her, and it was very exciting. All the work she does, and her organization is so incredible.
She's awesome.
So, yes. So she brought me in. She's a great mentor. She's a wonderful person. And through that, I got to go to Sheryl Sandberg's leadership conference. And then I started, I saw all the corporate women there representing their companies at Lean In. And, medicine has become somewhat corporate now. There's large corporate staffing groups. And so the culture has to change a little bit. And there's a lot of room to grow there in terms of women's empowerment, self-empowerment for advancing in these corporate structures. So I brought Lean into one of our companies, and we're doing a lot of work. We're very well supported. It's been very well received. And we've started workshops for physicians, female physicians, workshops on gender bias and negotiation and leadership. And it's been incredibly well received. We've done workshops with just female physicians, and then we've done workshops with male leadership. About the one we started with was our gender bias workshop, which has been incredible. It's been very eye-opening for a lot of the senior male leadership who, you don't know what you don't know. So it's encouraging that it was so well received, and people want change, and they want to, open up. And, women have to also learn how to negotiate for themselves and learn the skills that they may not have learned, the soft skills. They're all great doctors, but we didn't really necessarily learn the soft skills of negotiation and leadership and self-promotion and, having your network help you get more advancement in your career. I think intuitively maybe, or structurally, male physicians do that more naturally, or it's an easier process for them. And women have a big role in doing it for themselves. So our workshops have been incredibly well received, and we, the leadership of our company wanted us to, these were pilot programs we did in New Jersey, and we're supposed to increase our distribution of these workshops. So last year before COVID hit, we went out to our other areas, which were Arizona and Pennsylvania, and we're supposed to go out to Florida and have other women do our workshops and kind of have this grow. So it's been great. And we've used it. We've used the Lean In platform. We've used the Lean In statistics, the research Lean In's done to show the data outside of the physician world. And then we have our own data within the physician world about these, the disparities between advancement between female physicians and male physicians. So it's been great. It's been very, very useful and very well received.
That is awesome. I had no idea. That is great. I do remember you. We actually sat in the same, we were in the same circle in California when we were at that conference, and I loved meeting you. And I'm so thrilled to hear that you're doing stuff for female physicians. So it's basically like female, empowering them. That's amazing. Because I imagine they have a different set of, biases and obstacles to climb that ladder.
It's very interesting what happens with female physicians. So in academic medicine, medical school is very rigorous. It's a huge commitment. And residency training is very rigorous. We're talking physician residency training is a 3 to 7 year process, depending on what specialty you choose. And you're working 60 to 80 hours a week, every week of every year for that time. So we're not like regular employees, we have given ourselves to this profession. It is 100% in. It's not like, that's why it's called a calling, because for a physician to do this, to make this sacrifice, the time sacrifice is enormous. Everything else typically takes a back seat to this training. Now I got lost in my thoughts. So this process, it's hard for women to have families and have this career at the same time. So what they noticed in academic medicine was male physicians would rise to the top of becoming program directors and chairs very quickly. And there would be a 10-year lag maybe for women where they'd be practicing physicians, but they weren't focusing on the research and the extra stuff because they wanted to have their families and be mothers in addition to their physician life. So after 10 years, but he also noticed that even after 10 years, when women were not, when their kids would grow up enough so they could then focus on leadership and advancement in the careers and trying to become chairman and doing research, there was still a institutional bias against promoting them. So even once they caught up, there would be a bias against promoting them. And that's what I had actually a male physician in ENT, Dr. Anderson out of New Jersey. He's an ear, nose, and throat doctor who did a ton of gender research in academic medicine and showed that once women take care of their children and they're ready to advance their careers, they're held back by the institutional bias against promoting them. And his whole point was give women a chance, because when you invest in them, there may be a lag with the women who choose to take care of their families and not advance their careers, there may be a lag, but once that lag's over, they're 100% in and incredibly productive and can do incredible research and can be leaders. That's in academic medicine. Then what we notice in corporate medicine is, even though residency medical school classes are 50% women or 51% women now versus men, the residency classes in emergency medicine are still more men than women. And then when you get into leadership, the numbers just go down. There, women in leadership are just, and we're trying to, it's a mixed bag of, they're not, and I learned, and Lean put it so well, when there's a promotion to be had and you have to apply for it, and if there's 10 criteria that need to be met, women will need 12 to apply, and men will need 6 to apply. So that internal, I'm okay, I'm good enough to apply now, I don't think women have it. And I've seen it in my colleagues where they won't apply. They're brilliant. They won't apply for a promotion because they're like, well, I need to do this, this, and this. I need more. And we'll have our counterparts, younger men with less experience, go for it and get promotions when women senior to them won't apply because of that internal dialogue of, I need to be more ready. I need to be more prepared. I need more experience. I need to check off all 10 to 12 boxes on this list, while the guy's like, 5's enough. Let me go for it. And he gets promoted. Yeah. So we've had talks around that, which have helped women negotiate for better salaries. We also don't negotiate well in terms of what we think we deserve, what our value is, what our market value is. Whereas I think men are better at negotiating for what they think they deserve. I think they're better, or they're more comfortable with it, and women just need to get more comfortable having that conversation.
And that's mind blowing. Yeah. I was just talking to a healthcare executive here in Nashville, and she was a female and a woman of color. And I was like, you absolutely need to go for that job. Cause she kind of mentioned it in a sheepish way, like, oh, there's this job that has this. But I don't know. I'm like, I've seen your resume and I know you, and you absolutely can do it. And it's like, you go for it. It's just it's just amazing, that self-talk, that negative self-talk that keeps us, at that apprehension to go for it. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Yes. And this is why we need our networks, and we need these workshops, so sometimes you just need somebody to say, hey, it's okay for you to negotiate. It's okay for you to go for the job. We're all in this together. They just need that coaching, because no one's ever told them that before. They've never had that experience in their training that, how to do this part well. They're fantastic doctors. They're amazing physicians. But now taught them this soft skill.
Right. That's amazing. I'm so glad you're doing that. And kudos to Lean In Latinas and you guys, and you for starting that. That's amazing. All right. So I've got one more question. Just for fun, tell me what has been, do you guys order Amazon stuff?
Yeah.
What has been like a life-saving, like, this is the best thing? Like, for me, it's my air fryer. So I've enjoyed my air fryer tremendously. Talk about eating healthy. You don't have to, we love Brussels sprouts around here. And so, like, we don't have to like douse it in bacon or whatever to just, make them good and delicious. So that for me has been my lifesaver as far as cooking. Yeah. But what has been the like, hey, I just ordered this thing and I love it. It could be for the kids, it could be for you or the home or whatever.
Well, let's think. Well, I've been ordering my skincare, my Rodan and Field skincare, to keep my skin looking great, and that's obviously easy. But you said Amazon, so that's not Amazon. So let me think of Amazon. All of my vitamins and supplements that I've been ordering to keep the family healthy. My elderberry gummies for the kids, vitamin D, vitamin A, selenium, quercetin, which is Quercetin, which is a flavonoid that's very concentrated in apples, but it's a fantastic supplement to take. All of that stuff I've been able to get on Amazon. So that's been amazing to be able to keep everybody's immune health up at home with the supplements. I also ordered my little pulse oximeter, the thing that tests your oxygen.
Yes.
I ordered mine off Amazon. So that's been very useful. And then I was going to get an ultraviolet wand to disinfect, to kill all the viruses. It's been on back order, but I would have liked to order that on Amazon. I'm trying to think, what else did I order on Amazon? I feel like that's everything. I've been mostly going to Home Depot and getting my flowers and planting my flowers and
Nice.
doing skincare and, eating healthy. So
Yeah, good,
that's
good.
pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And again, thank you for what you're doing out there. And I hope that we can continue to keep in touch.
Yeah, let's definitely connect again. This was so much fun. I'd love to check in again when you have time. We'll see how things have evolved.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Corine.
Thanks to Shreni for coming on the show today. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast, or if you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button to get all the latest podcasts from Rising Stories. You can also connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Corine Sandifer. Please consider supporting this podcast by purchasing products mentioned on the show. As an Amazon affiliate, Rising Stories podcast receives a small commission and helps us stay afloat. When you make a purchase using these links, that is at no additional cost to you. You can also visit our storefront to see all of the great things mentioned on past shows and some of my favorite items as well. Music is by Ben Sound, and our sponsor today has been Rakuten. Thanks again for listening, and keep rising in your story.